Hello, I'm Grant Swain, the owner of Gearhead School, and today let's take a look at the technician shortage. We've kind of felt it in our bones and felt like there was one for many, many years, and you always wonder, well, maybe just me or just the city I'm in. But just recently there's been a lot of data coming out, and there's no doubt a technician shortage coast to coast. And in this show, let's take a look at revolves around a particular episode, podcast from Remarkable Results Radio. And that podcast looked at some hard numbers. And on the panel, we had kind of a really some movers and shakers. We had Chris Chesney from CarQuest Technical Institute, the executive director, Jill Saunders from Toyota, and Donnie Safer from the executive director of NASTAF. They were talking about some recent data from Tech Force Foundation, and we'll probably do a whole other episode on Tech Force Foundation. It's a group funded by a lot of industry giants, so to speak. Some big money here, and they're going out and really trying to get a handle on how we can get in the high school level, get the students in the pipeline and really promote the industry. But they almost had to prove the point. So the first thing they did established, is there truly a technician shortage? And basically, we're going to take a look at that here in just a second. I looked at their reports and dug deeper, and really kind of went on a pretty deep dive myself, kind of springboarding off from what they did, and kept looking. And I put together a white paper, and it addresses the technician shortage. And I use that, quite frankly, as a selling point. If I walk into a garage or in a trade show, I'm talking to a garage owner, I'll say, there's a technician shortage. I'm sure you feel it. And, pretty much they'll say, yeah, there is. And here's the bottom line, is the school system, that's including public school and private school, post-secondary, they're only producing about half the need. They put out about 40,000 graduates a year. Industry needs about 80,000 graduates a year. Tremendous shortage. So, and I got news for you. I came from the public school system, 15 years. I was 5 years a private trainer, 15 years at a post-secondary instructor. I know where the body's buried, and it's unrealistic to expect the training, the traditional, post-secondary schools, or even the private schools, they're double capacity to get caught up on the need, and that's not going to happen anytime soon. So if you're waiting on that to save your shop, help's not on the way, and that's going to be. It's a lot of. It just doesn't happen. You're not going to be able to double capacity, maybe in the next 10 or 15 years. So my position is, hey, look out in your shop and see if you got somebody that you could train, and that's what Gearhead School specializes in, is providing in-house training programs. But now that's going to do is going to focus on, take a look at the white paper, and the white paper, and as you go through that, you'll start to see some hard numbers. And if you're not a believer that there's a technician shortage right now, I hope then you'll acknowledge that. And also the second half of the white paper talks about Gearhead School, which I feel like is a viable solution by running an in-house training program and taking your gearheads and your bay to a technician. Let's take a look at the white paper. So, right on the front cover, we start with some data. The projected demand for new entrant technicians, these ones hopefully with at least a diploma or associate degree, are about 78,000. And the graduates of post-secondary programs, and this would include both public school and private schools, is about 38,000. So we're about 40,000 short for trained technicians. That's from hard data, and you'll see this whole report is heavily footnoted, and all the footnote references are in the back of the report. So starting the first page, we note that there definitely is a technician shortage. We've established that, and this was most of this information came through work from the Tech Force Foundation, and they produced 3 papers, and these papers cited a lot of sources, and all that was been put into this document. One takeaway from this section is that the estimate is from 2019 through 2022. The shortage of trained technicians is going to be average 36,000 techs a year. The reality is that the automotive service industry is the need for trained techs has outpaced the public school system, the private school system. They can't keep up, and so the amount of 36,000 tech shortage each year, it would almost require the school system to double capacity. That's just not going to happen anytime soon. It may happen in 10 or 15 years in the future, but right now we can't rely on that. So how do you fill this shortfall? Bottom line, we're hiring people to take these spots. In this case, we're almost always hiring a significant amount, maybe up to 50% of the technicians are undertrained or not trained at all. There was a time when an automotive tech could have a relatively rewarding, successful career with little or no formal training. That's just, those years are long gone. The technologies used on today's cars have added a complexity this just can't be effectively conquered without education. You're looking at advanced emission control systems, analog brake systems, electronic stability control systems, all the body CAN stuff now that runs all the accessories on networks, and also like the advanced driver assistance systems, the ADAS stuff is here again, just more and more complex systems on top of complex systems. And I make the point also there's a real true downside to working under trained technicians. One thing is you've got these techs of different degrees of capabilities, and you're handing out additional work to get done, and trying to match who can do what to each ticket can be tough. And you may have a car ping-ponging back and forth between 3 or 4 techs to get the whole ticket completed. And in some cases, you may have a guy that's got a ticket, and there's really something on there he shouldn't be doing, but out of pride or whatever, he's going to try to when he shouldn't. So it's, if you can get all your techs trained at a level where the tech can handle everything on the ticket, it's going to be a much smoother flow through the shop. There's also a higher potential of damaged, expensive electronic components. There was a time when basically you had a power to ground, and most components were not electronic, and it was really almost impossible to damage electronic systems on a car just doing normal service work or diagnostic work. But now, you have a power and ground and network wires all in the same sheath, and you put power on the wrong wire at the wrong time, and you could take out a transistor inside a control module, which could be hundreds if not thousands of dollars. And then you have this built-in guaranteed job obsolescence. If somebody comes to work for you undertrained, they're not willing to make the commitment to work towards a goal, they're going to be less and less relevant as time goes on. And this actually occurs a lot with a seasoned tech that thinks he's got to an okay place and it's 5 to 8 years retirement, and they're going to stop training, and they're going to not end as their career as a hero, they're going to end as a zero. So they also are a problem. So if you got employees that aren't willing to make the commitment to train, now this may require, and should require, the owner to make a commitment too, such as arranging for and compensating in some form or fashion. But you just cut to the point you really can't afford to have a technician using a bay in your shop that's not willing to be involved in lifelong learning. You just can't afford it anymore. And then to wrap up, I make the point that most of the undertrained get stuck in the service bay, and they don't get out of there because they're not making the effort or commitment to engage in training that's going to get them out of there, and then they become the disgruntled employees that they hurt morale around people they work with. But then these are the guys that as collectively down at the local club or something, or you'll just hear them at lunch, you hear them talk about how it's a dead end job and all, and then collectively they hurt the whole industry. When the truth of the matter is, they started on a flawed career path to enter into a job that requires a lot of high-end training, and they showed up didn't have it. They don't have a plan on how to get it, and their employer doesn't have a plan to help them get it either. And so it just turns out it's just a kind of a bad situation. So one solution to this problem is, if you have some techs that are working for you that they love cars, they'll pay attention, they're not breaking off bolts, and they want to commit to learning, you can launch an in-house training and mentoring program. And we're seeing that starting to really formulate now. Matter of fact, Toyota just recently started a program they're calling this Service Quality Specialist, and their goal is to put at every Toyota dealer, they're going to take a Toyota Master Tech. That would be a minimal requirement, and put them on salary, and they'd still turn some flat rate hours. But their job is to actually mentor and track training needs within the dealership. So when the dealers are getting this serious about in-house training, the aftermarket needs to pay notice. So if you're going to go with a dedicated training coordinator to help facilitate an in-house training and mentoring program, we can model or take a look at the Toyota model, which their person is a salaried position, so they still do produce work, but they're salaried. And of course, they're going to be looking also evaluate the shop's ability to diagnose and service current technologies. So they're the ones that decide, here's what our talent is, here's what our equipment is, here's what our basically shop's abilities are. So and that's actually important to know what to turn away and what you can do. They're monitoring and they're managing that side, and they're also have a system set up to document each technician's training records, their certifications, identifying their strengths and weaknesses, and the plan for upcoming training. Do we want to try to make them strong in everything or pick a specialty? That's part of a training director. A training coordinator would focus on new employees for the training and mentoring needs, but ultimately this position is responsible for everybody's training and mentoring needs. And the training coordinator should know and source out what's available as far as training in your general area, either online, face-to-face. They should be keenly aware of online training that's offered that would be appropriate for the given technician. Any on-site training they can bring in through parts jobbers or trade associations, training centers such as Hunter Engineering and Garage Gurus, and physical training centers that you'd send somebody to, and training conferences such as Vision up in Kansas City or ASTE in Raleigh, North Carolina, and many others that are they're fixed training conferences that generally have a long track record. You can look and see what's covered and see how that plays into your training program for all the technicians. And at the end of this document, add the information about Gearhead School, because our specialty is, in fact, in-house training programs. And basically we make available some same courseware used by leading community colleges. We have a program that covers the whole car bumper to bumper. It's used for like 2-year associate degree programs. We have another one that looks at electric and hybrid drivetrains. These are powered by Electude Learning Management System. They're the biggest in the business. They have over 300,000 users in 55 countries. I personally used Electude when I was a instructor for the community college system. When I decided I wanted to do Gearhead School, I reached out to them, and they set me up with the same thing that the school had, but that way I can bring it to the industry without the person going officially to face-to-face school. Also keep in mind that all training products bought from Gearhead School come with the support of a professional instructor via phone, video chat, and many other ways. So it does come with support, which is something you typically don't get if you just purchase some online training. With Elect 2, it's online delivery, great animations, it's on-demand consumption, meaning you can, our standard system comes where you can look at anything at any time. You don't have to start at each one module. You can, you can go from brakes or start steering, suspension, or heat and air conditioning. So you don't have to wait like at a traditional school till class is offered in the spring or the fall or the summer. You can consume what's good for you based on the workload of your shop, and you may be actually sponsored by a shop, and they're going to kind of tell you what they want you to do first. But anyway, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, access to the entire course. It has great student progress and tracking so that you can prove to yourself and others that you're consuming the content and understand the content. And then the last couple of pages gives you a little look into how many lessons in each of the categories, and some estimated times on how long it'll take to complete that. And here again, the hybrid electric course is a lot shorter, and it's really for those now. You should already be a relatively seasoned technician, understand electricity deeply before you take this course. So this is not going to start with the basics. This is going to look specifically at the hybrid electric drivetrains. Then the reference section at the back, which contains all the references from the footnotes. This alone is a pretty good read. This is a PDF. It's available for download from the site, and I'll put a link below this video in the show notes. And the cool thing about the PDF is all of these have a lot of hot links that takes you to all these references, and also on the very last page, I listed pretty much all the online training, on-site training centers and training conferences that I'm aware of, and this will be updated over time. So I highly recommend that you download this white paper as a PDF, and then you can open it up on your desktop, and all these links will be hot and save you a lot of time on chasing down some of this information. And so that's a wrap on this white paper. And any questions on this or any questions about Gearhead School in general, reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you.